that we have the most critical pillar of the public health system. It's not even doctors. It's actually the nursing sector. That they have been on strike for 3 weeks and we don't have a national emergency, at two levels. One, the politicians continue as if nothing is happening, particularly the politicians responsible. And let's not forget that even if we argue about whether, the doctors are a devout faction, because the doctors always argue against that, the nurses and the nursing sector is obviously a devout function. But you don't sense, when you go around the counties or even when you listen to them on the campaign trail across the political divide, that they says there's a crisis. And that should shock anyone, because there must be amazing suffering by those who can't afford to walk to the private clinics. There must be tremendous suffering. And so it's a country that is increasingly becoming more heartless, But there's also an issue it raises about also the quality of our public healthcare system, because if we also can afford to have the nurses away for 3 weeks, and you're not seeing an overpowering, overwhelming sense of protest from the public, you also wonder how the public system also, whether it actually delivers to the people or whether people have found different alternatives. So it is actually a sad time for reflection as a nation.
Is it just, the public giving up? Because, remember we had a doctor strike of 100 days.
And the country went on. I think part of it is that because the country suffered so much from the breakdown of the public, both the public education system, the public health system, even the public infrastructure programs, people found alternatives, and I think all that people do is when this system doesn't work, they go back to the private sector system, which is unfortunate. And I think in this one, the county government leadership needs to be held accountable by the country. I think it's very easy for us when things go wrong at a national level, like when there's a drought problem, we must hold the government in power responsible. When something like this happens, both Governor Munya, Governor Ongwae, Governor Ranguma, who I believe is the chair of the medical whatever, those people actually owe an explanation to the nation as to why is it we are letting this to happen, not for 1 day, not for 1 week, for 3 weeks, and it doesn't appear like there's even a solution, in the foreseeable future. I think that is really unfortunate. Someone needs to pay just not at least a political price for it.
Price. Okay, Kamoto, let's continue the conversation we were having earlier. And I'd like us to delve into two things to do with the snippets that we've seen of the NASA manifesto. One of it is also to do with food security. It was big back in 2013. It's a big conversation right now in the country. And what they've said, they're going to come up with something that they call the Kenya Integrated Food Security Marshall Plan, which basically is to make farming attractive while reducing the costs of farming and making food available. That's just a brief, sum up to it. Is this that silver bullet according to you in regards to food security?
I think they have some interesting ideas there and that are progressive. And I think one of the sad things is that we haven't particularly the last 10 years, in the reform season, that we haven't done a lot more investment in ensuring that we are food self-sufficient. I think for a country like this, food sufficiency and has to do even with national security. It has to do with the sustenance of an economy. So I think a lot more could have been done in the last 10 years. And so if NASA is serious about investing a lot more in agriculture, then that would be a good thing. I think what they need to ask themselves is most people who come into government actually come with that platform. If you look at the NAC manifesto in 2002, that was also their key pillars. Why is it that we have not been able to deliver? And part of it is there's a lot of money in the agriculture sector, and there are very strong cartels that are embedded in the sector, and that reforms in the sector, whatever sector you take the sugar sector, you take the coffee sector, there are very strong cartels. And unfortunately, these cartels are the ones who fund these campaigns. And even if you go to NASA itself, you could I mean, a couple of them are mentioned, and you'll find them amongst the advisors and everybody. And it's very difficult then to actually make reform. It is not because the ideas are not good. It is because the follow-through comes at a cost to some of these cartels. So that is part of the problem. If you take about import, why is it that we still continue to import food? Why is it that the price of sugar is still very high and we have very, very high cost of production? Why is it that at some point we allow massive imports of sugar duty-free? It's because people make money. People make money during that season. And so to say that you're going to reform it completely and cut off those is going to be difficult. It doesn't mean that it is impossible. But what we need to see, and that's what I talked about in the beginning, is about believability. What you need to see is, it is not so much that the ideas are good, but are you able to deliver? And how are you going to deal with the bottlenecks and the handicaps that are managed because of very strong... And these cartels are not 5 years old. They've been there for the last 50 years. So you almost sometimes cannot do away with them completely. In the last 10 years, I think many of them, their power has been reduced, but I don't think they have gone. And I don't think they are going to go overnight. So that's something that, those sorts of promises must look at. But reforming agriculture, great ideas, but requires also a little more thinking.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Kamotho Waiganja. We could speak about this for such a long time. He is a lawyer and a former commissioner for the CIC. Thank you very much for your time. We'll have you very soon. All right. Right now, we want to cross over and listen to the CS Willie Bet. We've been speaking about food and agriculture. Let's just listen into what he has to say about that cargo that is being imported